Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Freedomlink Radio. This is the Thursday evening edition, and I'm joined tonight by Bob Chapman of the International Forecaster, and also my co-host Gwen Caldwell. I'd like to welcome Bob aboard. Bob, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, just fine, and it's just nice to be here, and we should have an exciting show.
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly enough to talk about the economy, huh, Gwen?
Yeah, no kidding. And Bob's the expert, so we're happy to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, Bob, what do you think about the drama that is that's going on in the United States right now with this debt ceiling? Do you think that that's really... Bob, are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you think that it's theatrics that you see with the United States government in regards to the debt ceiling? Do you think they already have a deal in place?
I think so. And I think they dreamed this magical stuff up about 6 months ago or maybe 3 months ago. And I think they're dragging it out for political reasons.
Yeah.
I think there'll be some increases in taxation, which will be minuscule. They'll probably go after Social Security and Medicare in a small way. And, of course, they haven't raised it for the last couple of years, the Social Security. And so, you know, in order for the average retiree to contend with inflation today, they would have to be receiving double what they are now. And I guess the average is about $110 a month, so maybe $220, $250, somewhere in there. But anyway, I think it was all political theater, and I don't think it's going to solve anything. The changes I think they're going to make are going to be superficial in as much as I think they will say that they are going to cut the increases in the future. Now, that means that the budget deficits that we're experiencing are going to continue, and they just won't get precipitously worse. But, you know, I've seen in the past what happens is that 2 or 3 years from now, they'll say, well, we want to do away with that elimination and put it back in, and they'll stick it in the bottom of some bill someplace that's going through. And the same thing with taxation. So I figure in the next few years that they'll cancel out most of what they're talking about and continue to get their debt extensions on short-term debt.
Let me ask you this. What we're seeing right now is, I think the compromise that's being proposed is a $3 trillion cut over 10 years. When you do the math, I mean, that's really a drop in the bucket, isn't it?
It certainly is, and we don't even know what the numbers are. They just threw those out. Nobody's read anything, and it'll be a while before that legislation is passed. And, you know, today is the 21st, so they get 9, 10, 11 calendar days. Mm-hmm. Whether they can accomplish that in that period of time remains to be seen. But I don't think that's a problem. What they'll do is they just say, well, we're going to extend it, and everybody will agree on it, and we'll extend it out until the middle of October, and then we'll know exactly what we want to do. And in the meantime, if we get it together sooner, then we'll chop it off there and put it into operation.
It really is amazing, you know, the workings, this political machine. I've often heard it referred to. There's a radio host, Mike Church, that he refers to it as Mordor on the Potomac, and it really is that, because the amount of deception that goes on and the amount of I want to say that the way that they keep people in the dark by really keeping the details out of things, it's truly mind-boggling, you know. And what's happening is they're really manipulating people into thinking that oh yeah, you know what we're going to do is we're really going to reign in control here, and everything's going to be just fine, and don't worry, trust us, everything is okay. And it's not okay, not by any means. Would you say that in the last, let me ask you this, in the last 10 years, how much would you say the dollar's been devalued?
How much what?
How much has the dollar been devalued, would you say, in the last
about 60%. It's been dreadful. And
yeah.
it's continuing. Real inflation's 10.6%, and it'll be 14 by the end of the year. And that's as a result of QE1 and QE1 and Stimulus 1. Next year we have to contend with the arrival of QE2 and Stimulus 2 results, or the things that are going to happen in inflation because of that, and it could take it to 25-30%.
Now let me ask you this, Bob, because they've been talking about QE3. So we haven't even felt the effects of QE2 yet. What happens with QE3?
That's next year. Well, we predicted it, all of what we're talking about, a year ago, May. And everybody else is wandering in the dark, trying to figure out what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. So they have to have QE3. Now, one of the wrinkles here is they're probably going to have to buy about $1.7 trillion worth of treasuries and agencies of the bonds of Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, and FHA. Now, previously we had Stimulus 1 and 2. Well, Congress is not going to pass Stimulus 3. So to me, that means that in some way the Fed has to come up with $850 billion. And that would take it up to almost $2.6 trillion. And we'd see that 2 to 2.5 years from now. What would that mean in real inflation? Probably something in the vicinity of 50%. And 50% is hyperinflation. And what is hyperinflation? It's inflation, but what happens is that you get paid and you immediately spend the money on all the things that you have to buy, because the next day it might be worth less. And that goes on while they continue to pump money and credit into the economy, and all of a sudden one day it collapses. And then you get a deflationary depression.
Bob, have we ever in the United States had a worse case scenario than the one that we're in the middle of right now?
Can you hold on a second? You're going to have to give me the question, Joe, because I can't hear her very well.
Turn your mic volume up, Gwen. Let me ask you.
Yeah, I got a terrific storm going on here.
Yeah, no, it's something else. The question that I have actually comes from my other co-host, John King, who couldn't be here tonight. But he said he's very bullish on silver and under the impression that no matter what happens on August 2nd, silver will go up. Do you see it going up as a slow rise or by like a boom because of the current crisis that's going on?
Well, you know, from my point of view, and I've been involved in gold and silver for 52 years. At one time, for 29 years, I was the largest gold-silver stockbroker in the world. I owned my own firm. Mm-hmm. I had 6,000 clients when I retired. And I think it doesn't really make any difference whether it's quick, even, or long-term. Because long-term, they're going to continue to go up as long as you have two different things in place. Number one, inflation and hyperinflation. And number two, what's going to happen during a deflationary period is that the value of the dollar will continue to go down. And that means the only safe place to be will be in gold and silver, just like it is now.
Hey, Bob, hold that thought. Hold that thought, Bob. Let me go to bed break. When we come back, more from Bob Chapman. Welcome back, folks, to Freedomlink Radio. Email address, thefreedomlink@centurylink.net. The website, www.thefreedomlinkradio.com. We're joined tonight by Bob Chapman. And before we left, Bob, we were talking about gold and silver and how it's kind of a safe place to put your money in when we have a situation like we're seeing right now unfold. So you think it's a safe bet to put your money in?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I buy gold and silver every month, and I've done it for years, going back to 2000 when I saw that we were going to have another big run, and the subscribers have been in there and along the way as well. And they've done very well, keeping their purchasing power together, and some of them have made quite a bit of money beyond what they thought they would. But I tell people to make life simple. Go 50-50 on gold and silver coins or bullion, because I've been doing this for a long time, and you never know what is going to outperform one another. And I like them both. I got involved in both in 1959, so I've been around this a long time. So I say go half and half, and hope that they both go crazy. But I think they're going considerably higher, and I think that the gold and silver shares are way, way, way underpriced. Back in 1978, when we were at this juncture, so to speak, these stocks that produce gold and silver were selling at 150 times earnings. Today they're selling 6 to 10 times earnings. So there's an awful lot of room to get in at the bottom, and I think gold and silver are going to go considerably higher. What you're watching here is going to take 3 to 5 years minimum for it to get in very, very serious trouble.
Gwen, you had a question for Bob?
Well, yeah. I have two questions for Bob. One, I wonder about the has the United States or the global economy ever been in the kind of condition that we're currently in right now and facing in the near future?
Well, the answer is yes. In modern times, we'll pick up in 1872-74, 1881, 1892, then 1920-21, and they let that one go out on its own. This was you might call it a mini depression, and it cleared itself up in 2 years. And then we had the 1929 to 1941, which ended because of the Second World War. And so there's been lots of instances of this sort of thing happening. And today, we have the same basic problem as we had during the 1920s and 30s, and that's the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve was formed and made into an act by Congress in 1913. And ever since, everything they've done, they were supposed to be able to stop recessions and depressions. And they've been a disaster. And right now, the Fed has us in more trouble. And incidentally, the Fed is privately owned. It does not belong to the U.S. government. And what they're into now is a situation where they have to keep on creating money and credit until it collapses, or they have another great war.
Bob, do you think, Bob, that we will see what we saw in 1933 with them demanding that private holders of gold turn that in as under the guise of saving the economy or getting us out of the financial mess we're in? Do you see that happening?
Let me add
something
to that.
There's no justification.
Let me add something to that.
There's no justification.
What about like 401ks and what about 401ks and